Hey, what's up guys? Deron Brown here. And in this video, we're going to cover 9 JavaScript tricks to code like a pro. Now I'm actually using a article titled 9 JavaScript tricks to code as a pro as a reference. And what I did, I actually went into the details of this article and looked at all the things that basically some developers said that things you should know if you want to be considered a pro JavaScript developer. So because React Native is built on JavaScript, why not find out? So a lot of the things that I saw in this article, they were, well, most things weren't really too helpful. And that's because I've been coding for a while. And so if there's somebody that's a beginner, intermediate, this may be a lot more helpful. But there were a few things that really caught my eye. And one of the things is REST specifically. But before I get into that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually read through the article for some of the things, and then for some portions, I'm actually going to give you guys code as a reference because it's going to be easier to understand if you can actually see me coding. Anyways, that's enough of me talking, and let's get to the topic at hand.
Hey, what's up, guys? So right now I'm on the website and I'm looking at the article 9 JavaScript tricks to code like a pro. And I'm going to go through each 9 of those tricks. So let's get into it. Now, the first trick is actually arrow functions. Now, this is just for it's not something that's required, but it's more of a preference type of deal. And I personally use a lot more arrow functions than regular functions. I actually see more regular functions being used in projects like Angular. Now, as you can see, you can use this format, the regular function format, or the arrow function format. And then also if you're using the arrow function, you can use a shorthand syntax, which automatically returns when you just have less conditions within your function. Now I'm going to take a look at the project that I actually put together to go through this. You can see right now I have a regular function component, and I'm using that component within my app component. And then I have a my touchable opacity component, which I'll cover a lot later, and I'm using that as well. But that's an arrow function. And now if I'll take a look at the simulator, you can see that that text is showing and our app is showing as well. Now for the spread operator, this is the spread operator right here. It has basically the 3 dots. And I've only used the spread operator primarily when I'm doing anything with Redux. I know that it's useful in other ways as well, but I personally haven't used the spread operator outside of Redux. If there's any other developers that are watching this, leave a comment in the description to state areas where you've used the spread operator and why you think it'll be beneficial to our other viewers. Now, I actually have an example of this at let me see, bring this down. Now, see if I can load this back up. Now for reducers, if you take a look at this, our reducers tend to use use our spread operator because when you use the spread operator, it doesn't change the default state of your application. So it allows you to basically make updates to your state without mutating the original value of the state. And that's primarily the reason why Redux is actually used in the first place. That's one of the best benefits of using Redux. So that's the one spot where I'll see that the spread operator is very helpful. So let me get back out of this and go to the article. Okay. Now it gives you examples. It's better to concatenate this way as opposed to using, I know that there's a concat function, but it doesn't give that example. But yeah, this is basically the best way to go about that. Now, for the REST operator, this is something that I think is going to be beneficial to all React Native developers, React developers in general. Now, what the spread operator does is it actually it passes in basically all the properties that live within that component. So I'm going to go to our code. Now you can see I'm using the spread operator right here. Right, so I'm using the spread operator as one of my parameters, as one of my props, and I'm destructuring it right now. And I'm passing in my spread operator into my touchable opacity. So when you use touchable opacity comes with a collection of props. So I'm gonna go ahead and just show you, I'll put this up, but I'm gonna visit the website for touchable opacity. I'm gonna search for that, touchable opacity, React Native. Now take a look at this component. Now touchable opacity comes with all these props: active opacity, style, next focus down, next focus left, etc. Now, when we use the spread operator, we're going to inherit all of those properties, and we're going to be able to pass all those properties into my touchable component. Now, as you can see right now, usually when I first started developing, if I wanted to pass the on press, I would do it just like this. So I'm creating a property called onPress, and I'm referencing the onPress property that's actually native to Touchable Opacity, and I'm passing in my prop. And then I'm using that prop within my Touchable Opacity component. Now, when I press that button, an alert should show up, right? And that's exactly what happens. Now, if I go ahead and I just remove that and I just add what I had initially, my rest, that works as well. So if I go back, so it automatically inherits that on press, which is it will save you so much time if you guys get comfortable using the rest. Because I promise you, when you're working for, when you start doing contract work, you're going to have to build a lot of components, and it can get kind of, it can waste a lot of time referencing every single prop that you're going to use. So using rest is just an easy way to do that. And then also something that you should know is that rest, it has to be the last property. So if you actually save it like this, and we go back to our simulator, we're going to get an error. And basically it says rest elements must be the last element. So make sure you always have your rest as your last element. All right, so that's really helpful for me. I hope that you guys actually do something like that. And also I want to give you another example just to show you that this works. I'm going to pass in the style prop. And I'm going to give it the background color of red. I'm going to give it justified content is going to be center. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Okay, justified content, the height is going to be 50, and the width, I'm going to make that 50 as well. And I'll just apply the border radius to make it look cute. And the border radius is going to be, give it 10. Now if I save this and actually take a look at simulator, you can see that everything's, we actually have our button. And I think I forgot.
Hey, after this video, make sure you visit the website geekmode.tech. There you can learn more about us, read our blog, view our courses, and if you haven't done so already, make sure you click on the free course button on our website. Once you click on that button, you'll be redirected to a new screen where we'll ask you to fill out a form. You only have to give us your first name, your email, and your phone number. At max, we're going to contact you 4 times a month, and that's only to inform you about discounts with courses and also information on our blog or our vlog. Now that's enough of me talking, and now let's get back to the video.
Got to add line items. I'm going to make this center as well. And then increase this size. Put this as the height as 60 and the width as 90. Now we check that out. That's a lot better. You can see we actually have a button now. All right, so it's cool. It's a cool way to basically pass in your props. So let's continue on with the article. Now, fill array, I took a look into this, and this is actually pretty cool if you're, just practicing algorithms. That's the only part where I feel like it'll be beneficial. Like when I was studying to basically get hired, and I practiced a lot more, basically looked at a lot more algorithms to help me get ready for my job interviews. Sometimes I needed to just generate some dummy data, and then it just took time doing that. So if you use basically this functionality right here, array.from, array reference the length of the array, and then keys, I guess it automatically builds an array with all those values from 0 to 4, which is pretty cool. So like I said, it's a nice way to save time. Now, computed object properties. I've used this before. I'm pretty comfortable mostly using dot notation, But the one place where I saw this actually being very beneficial is on the API. Me and this other developer were basically creating an API for one of our applications, and we were using reduce. We're using the reduce function, and when you use that reduce function, we wanted to dynamically create a key, and the key wasn't a property that was coming in from the database. So we dynamically used our create a key using this kind of this syntax. So that's the only place that I've actually used this, and I saw it being beneficial. If you're a developer watching this and you want to give us an example of how computed object properties can be used, hey, I'm open to any information. So you can just leave a comment, and I'll check that out. And if it's good, I'll create another video. Now, good ways of console log. Now, this blew my mind. Now, I usually console log just using basically console.log. But I think when you actually start working with APIs, and you're getting some kind of data into your application, you want to make sure that the data's come through. You can get the data using basically the regular console log because, I mean, you're going to get back an array of objects. But as you can see, we're using console.table, and it's using an array, and it's still having an array of objects coming back. Now, I'm going to go back to my simulator. First, I'm going to go to my code. I'm going to show you guys how this looks. So I actually copied the code that was in this article, right? And I'm doing console.table. And I've never used this prior to reading this article. So this is pretty cool find. Now, I want to debug it. I'm in debug mode right now. I'm going to inspect it. Let me go back to my simulator, make sure it's up and running. This just takes time to do. Now you can see our application's up and running. And now let's go back to our console table and then look at. As you can see, everything's coming back as a table, and this is pretty cool. A neat way to actually see all the code, all the properties and all the values of those properties coming through. So I strongly advise you guys to actually start using console table, especially you guys who are working as professional developers right now, because this will basically help make things a lot easier. So yeah, check that out. I'm going to get back to this article. So let me go back to zoom this back in. Now, next. Now this is, I don't use this, and the only place I see this being beneficial, there are certain situations within your application where you're going to have a console log. The company that I work with, it's kind of a bad practice to have console logs in your application. The ones that at least that you merge into the master branch or your dev branch. But there are a few situations in which you do want to actually console log something back. Information to make sure that your API is actually up and running. So for something like that, you could style the console log to be green. So that's just a cool little neat add-on. So you guys, I know you can check that out. Object destructuring. So best way to show you guys this is an example. So if you take a look at my Touchable Opacity component, right now we're destructuring our props. So we can do the same thing. I'm going to show you how it looks when you don't destructure your props. And now reference our props. And I'm going to pass in. And this is basically the same thing. So I'm going to save this. And if I take a look at my simulator, you see we're still getting our styling. And yeah, our alert still works. So destructuring basically is a cool way to, it's a neat way to basically make your code a lot cleaner. Now sometimes you're going to have way more than one property, so I usually create most of my functions, especially when you guys check out any of the courses, you'll see that I actually destructure my props like this for the most part. I'm going to make everything back the way it was and go back to our properties looked originally. All right, so now back to the article. You see, it actually gives that example that I just used. You use animal as the prop, and you're going to destructure the animal and get the name and the age. So, and then also, you guys can actually Google these, reduce, map, and filter. There's plenty of videos already on YouTube that actually go through these functions, but these are all functions that you're going to need to know if you're going to be considered a serious JavaScript developer in general. So I would definitely look into that. Now, conditional operator. This is the last one I'll cover. All right, so I'm going to add some code. So conditional, when I use the operational operator, this is basically when you want to control the value of a variable. For example, I'm going to say create a variable titled person name, and I'm going to set that equal to if name is true. If name is true, the value is going to be Duran. Else, if name is not true, it's going to say there is no name. That's what person name is going to equal out to. So name, by default, I'm going to say it's equal to an empty string. All right. So within our app component, now we're just going to pass in the person's name. All right, so because it's an empty string, it should come back as false. Some say if it's false, they should put a little bit more parameters. So if the name is true, and also name.length is greater than 0. So if the name is greater than 0, we're going to return Duran. If not, it's going to return this. This isn't the best example, but it satisfies the example. So let me see, refresh this. What are we looking at? Oh, okay. So it's basically saying I need a text. So pass in the person's name. Say that. There is no name. Now, if I just add like yada yada yada, it should return Duran. And that's exactly what happens. Let's go back to the article. And that's it for this article. Now, if you guys, hopefully you guys, that this article was helpful. And if there's anything else you want me to cover, just feel free to reach out to me. Anyways, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys the next time. Peace.